Um, well, I'm Adam Sled. I'm the executive director of the Dominion Energy Innovation Center. I've got Bobby Carey from our team right here. And joining us this morning is Jerry Silva from the Tobacco Region Revitalization Commission.
I got that right. You got that right. We just say TRRC. It's a lot easier.
Okay, TRRC. We'll stick with TRRC. So this is the second time we've had Jerry come join us in a couple months, and the reason for that is that Jerry is running the Energy Ingenuity Fund, which is, I mean, really just like a groundbreaking project for Virginia, a really amazing thing to see happening, to see the tobacco, the TRRC funding much needed energy projects in the south and southwestern part of the state. So it was really fun having Jerry here last time to talk about how that program was going. And that was ahead of this past round of applications and awards that they made. So since today is the deadline for this round's pre-applications, we wanted to get Jerry back here to talk about any last minute questions people had, including, we'll probably talk about pre-application that the DEIC team has been working on a bit. But for those of you who are on, give you a chance to ask questions, ask Jerry what it is you need to do to make sure that you're getting your project crossed and vetted, and then how the process will go from here. Okay. Is that a good lead in?
It's a good lead in. So first, I'd like to thank everybody that's online today. And if you can't hear me, please raise your hand, voice your concerns. The goal is to make sure you can actually hear me clearly, loud and clear and crisp. And one, I want to thank Adam again for doing this, because I think this will become a regular thing until the money fund is gone.
Like,
okay, so
we like having you here.
Yeah, it's been fun, and of course I'm quite entertaining on this kind of stuff to make it viable. But I know today's the deadline date. It's not a scary moment if you're a believer in Halloween. This is really the moment. We just need to get your applications in. So with that mode, when I was here the last time, the couple things that I was kind of responsible for was rolling out an energy fund that had been funded by the commission, but didn't know what it was going to look like. Right. That's fair, right?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, they brought me on board to kind of build a program, lay out all the specifics of what this was going to look like. And what I share with commissioners is, anytime you roll out any program, and you've experienced this, I'm sure, it's never going to go as smoothly as you like. You've got to refine some things for round 2 and then eventually round 3. And I share with the commissioner, my goal was to actually see if I could spend all that money by round 3. And I'm on target if you guys actually submit. So how
much do you need to get rid of?
So with that in mind, we actually funded $2 million on one project for the Southwest region. That was for a 5 megawatt natural gas generation that we supported. And the reason we really liked that project, or I liked that project and actually took it to our committee, our internal staff, is they actually have their own infrastructure. And because of the closing of coal mines in the area, it's really been impacted quite a bit with the economic development component. And they saw an opportunity to put their own generation online to minimize the amount of cost it was costing them to actually be on the open market and going and purchasing their own energy to basically the market demands, of course, at different peaks and different times of the year. That could be very impactful financially to the city, community, I should say. So with that, they had a proposal that they laid out, and they actually gave me, in their case, their application was almost like 96 pages, 98 pages worth of information. And we went through it and shared with them what I liked about it, how to make sure we refined the presentation with the commission, and the commission approved it. There you go. So there's an example. Again, that was a very self-contained project that showed what the benefits were going to be, not only for the community, but future economic development, resiliency to the natural gas line, which was really kind of key, and sort of how it provided just much great infrastructure for the region. So the next one that we funded was $1.5 million. Oh, and by the way, when I say $2 million, that's $2 million out of the grant. We also gave them $2 million in loan, so it's a $4 million package.
So can you just real quick, because there'll be people who go back and watch this later, but can you just real quick run through the nuts and bolts of the process?
So the process in this case is you've got the pre-application, and the way it's been designed and the way that I thought this through is Pre-application is sort of your concept. What are you trying to get across? And how are you going to pique my interest to be able to say, you know, this is really good information, but I want to know more. And before I can know more, I got to move you into the application phase, which is going to get into the nuts and bolts, your business planning, your financial side, all of the things that you need to know in order to circle out more of what you were considering. And I usually tell people it's your white paper.
Yeah.
Okay, it's sort of your 2 or 3, you know, it could be a 2 or 3 page, you know, investment deck that you have that you laid out and you say, hey, I want to look at, will you consider this? But make sure it's thorough if it's a 2, 3, not a really half-written, you know, PowerPoint presentation. It's got to be really thought through in terms of if you were providing it to investors. What I'm looking for, and again, that pre-app is meant to only take you 15, 20 minutes tops. Depends how much, you know, you want to put into it. But if you've got a PowerPoint presentation, please attach that. If you've got a 1-page, 2-page outline of what you're trying to propose, make sure you're outlining the objective. It's got to be an energy space, and the RFP that we put together has been really well thought through. I've refined it based on round 1 and round 2. I think there wasn't a whole lot of enhancements, just refinements in terms of language based on feedback we got from previous applications.
Was there a specific thing that you changed?
I refined, I did, on the budgets and procedures. A lot of people are not realizing that it's a 1-to-1 match. That means that if we fund you 2 mil, you're going to have to come up with 2 mil. And so the other thing that we try to make sure people realize is there's only 3 ways to get the funding. You have to either be a nonprofit, you have to be part of an economic development, or you have to be able to partner with a township, county entity. So those are the only ways you're going to be getting funded.
And that's a question we've gotten before is for a for-profit company like the technology provider, right? They've got to go convince the county or the economic development authority or somebody to work with them.
Or get a nonprofit, right? That can actually submit the application on their behalf. Yeah, and oftentimes I would say the better you can actually partner with somebody it's got to be also in the tobacco region.
Yes.
Okay, that's kind of critical, right? I got to stress that if you're in Northern Virginia, sorry, we ain't gonna look at you. And I know Terry's from Northern Virginia, so I got to highlight him because he and I just chatted about this because he will bring it up what they're proposing. But what I want to make sure gets highlighted is it's got to be in the energy space.
Right.
Okay, and that's everything from renewable, which I'll get into in the second project, but it also can be in manufacturing. If you're in the manufacturing field of anything related to the energy side, whether you're manufacturing and you've got a jobs component and workforce development, those are just added points for the project. And those all day long on the commissioners is what they want to see.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I say that my goal is to actually try to get all this funding out, commissioners want this money on the streets. Right. They want to get it out. So my goal is to actually fund good projects and fund viable options that get that money out there. And so I want them all. And the priorities I think I've said in that RFP, I want hydrogen, guys. That's been one of my priorities. I think I'm going to have 2 applications, maybe 3, listening to you earlier. There might be 3 applications on that. Look forward to them. Love to have them. I'd love to see another waste to energy project, which I'll talk about. I talked about that last time, right? Yeah. I would want to see what technologies are out there. And the third one that you'll be hearing a lot is SMRs. But a lot of what SMRs is, those are bigger budgets than what my budget fund has. Okay. But if you're in the space of producing products that goes into the SMR technology, then I'll consider it. Yeah. Especially if you're a manufacturer and you're trying to rebuild in the tobacco region, definitely would be an opportunity. And then if you're looking at expansion, of course, that would be an opportunity. The one I just heard recently was a solar panel manufacturer that wants to move into the tobacco region. So that I said definitely I would consider. Yeah, because I said just make sure you outline your job specs and what your timeline is, and I would definitely that would definitely fall within the guidelines.
I mean, we're thinking of this as energy transition that leads directly to jobs in the tobacco area.
Correct. Yeah. And it's all part of economic development. And as everybody know, energy generation is a key driver right now. And the one thing I want to make sure that also gets across is, you know, the governor has said in all of the above agenda, which we are also tracking. I mean, if you look at what I funded, it's all of the above.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you to walk us through the energy storage, the Danville energy storage project a bit.
So that was one of the other projects.
Yeah,
And I cut you off a little bit, but go ahead.
no, I like, walk us through it. What were they proposing? What's the timeline look like? Like, I mean, that was a successful big dollar project that got approved,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So I just tell us about that as a great example.
So their request was 1.5 mil
Okay.
on that. And so half of that went from grants and half of it went from loan. Now, my thinking is it's more strategic than anything. I'm happy to share what my thoughts are on that. If I'm going to give you the grant, I want to make sure you take a loan.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, there's an incentive for us to make sure that that project is really a viable option for you.
Yeah.
And you realize we want to support that community, those areas. So we want to make sure our money is also working as well.
How does the loan component work? So they're getting a loan from the fund as well?
They're going to get a loan that we've set up with an agency that we're part of.
Okay.
Where they're going to get a loan that they can't be matched anywhere else.
Got it.
So it's a very attractive loan.
Okay.
And I will add this, I've actually met with DOE last 2 weeks ago, and they have a program called the CEFI, which is it's a state energy financing program they just rolled out. And they're looking to also partner with state agencies as part of funding clean energy projects. And they will stack a loan on top of it.
Oh, so like Danville could come to you, get grant funding, get a loan connection from you,
Right.
and then
if they want to look at another option, I would put them in touch with that agency.
Thanks.
Okay, so those are options. So again, those are my contacts, and I'm happy to work. In fact, I was working with Richlands on theirs because they're looking at getting additional funding for something completely separate.
Yeah, yeah.
And I told them if I can be of any resource, that's my job, is to be that resource.
Okay, so tell me about the battery storage project. Is like, technically, what is the project that Danville wanted to do?
So what Danville wanted to do, and it was, and I loved it for different reasons. It's a 12 megawatt battery storage. Not a lot. It's not 12 megawatts. It's not a big project. Because normally, if you look at utility size, those are always 50 megawatts.
Yeah.
At a minimum, there are 100 megawatts if you're in the West Coast side, because just the size of the amount of solar that's generated right there, right? So in this case, there was a 12 megawatts, but their 12 megawatts is primarily used to shave demand, their peak demands. And what I liked about it is the cost of demand in their particular area, they were able to highlight and show the cost savings over the 10-year of that project, which is in the millions. So when you look at that, I'm like, okay, the return on investments can be pretty quick.
Yeah.
It is for both Richlands and Danville. So for me, that was a really no-brainer, actually. I looked at it and I'm like, okay, these guys did their homework. They had taken it to planning commission. It got approved, and I think it goes to their town council this month.
Okay.
And so they expect to have it approved. And then they're going to, in fact, I've got a meeting with them tomorrow on the loan component on that to see how they're going to, what they're going to consider. But the reason I like that again is they had highlighted the carbon footprint, the safety concerns that usually most, and don't get me wrong, this is their second battery project. So they wanted to do it on a smaller scale first,
right? And
then they wrapped it up to 12 megawatts to actually show the saving. And by the way, City of Danville has their own utility.
Right, so it's the Muni doing this.
It's
right?
the Muni did this, but they showed where the savings were going to be for ratepayers. And the reason they did it is to actually keep their particular manufacturers, high users of the energy, at a cost at a minimum, so they can, make sure that they're not losing manufacturers the high cost of energy.
So their plan is that battery is going to be drawing at like 9:45 in the morning or something.
Whatever their peak times that they laid out, I saw them
drawing off peak and then
exactly
discharging on peak.
Correct.
I mean, it doesn't have to be them specifically, but one question I had is like, what have been popular sources of the match component? Like, what are you seeing in terms of people bringing match to the table?
For them?
Yeah.
For them, it was city, by the city underwriting it. Yeah, the city underwriting it. It's in their best interest, right, to keep the rates low and keep their economic development base, there. Again, because I've worked with cities for so long that I did in my previous job. That to me was pretty much, that one went through pretty quickly. That had no drawbacks whatsoever.
So we have a couple comments.
Sorry.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just that the EDP is taking a look at hydrogen and would love to learn more Connect.
Yep.
And then Peter across this says, what's the cost savings or incentives for such a project for reactors in VA, manufacturing reactors in Virginia? How is PJM?
Don't know that
You
one.
want to take a swing at it? Well, Peter, you should probably also be talking to the VEDP person on here.
You know, what I would say is the cost will vary, and I think what you're going to see is I'd like to flesh out that question and get back to you. So if you don't mind, I'm happy to do some additional research on your question, and if you don't mind sharing your email with Bobby.
Yeah, we have it from.
Yeah,
registration.
I don't mind looking in that for you because I want to flesh that out a little bit more. I don't want to say anything on the cuff that I want to make sure I understand that question fully.
Yeah, I mean, Peter, the question is, if you wanted to start manufacturing reactor components in Virginia, like what kind of state programs or incentive programs we have to bring you here? Is that essentially it? Yes. Okay. So, one, there's VEDP on the line. VEDP is the place to start. Yeah, there we go, Chris.
Chris has got his email there.
All right, Chris. So Chris with VEDP would be the place to start. Someone has
going real quick here. Good morning.
yeah. Chris, do you want to do the VEDP pitch real fast? Because he should talk to you first, and then talk to Jerry about locating it in tobacco.
And we'll figure it out. We'll make sure that, you know, infrastructure, appropriate infrastructure, depending on what it is, would be available.
Absolutely. That's a great note. And in that order, economic development likes to kind of know in advance and then work together to kind of bring it over the hump. So any kind of questions around these topics that potentially lead to projects? I'm part of the manufacturing sector team here at VEDP. Happy to have that conversation or route you to the right person.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, I'm just thinking, you know, what's the cost in terms of labor? What's the cost in terms of electricity? You know, comparing those type of things.
Yeah, we're happy to provide guidance on all of that.
Okay, and then I think I missed the first part. I came in 2 minutes late. What's the affiliation with Dominion, or is there, if at all?
I'll answer that. All right, so we are
Thank you.
not Dominion. We're up in Connecticut, where Millstone is. The Dominion Energy Innovation Center, the space is a separate nonprofit that is a public-private partnership between the town of Ashland, Hanover County, and then Dominion sort of helped launch us back in 2009 and is our main corporate sponsor. So our team works hand in hand with the Dominion Innovation Working Group. And so we sort of serve as technology scouts and like Virginia startup partners for the company, do a lot of cool stuff with them. They're a great partner. But like broadly as a nonprofit, our general goal is to work with entrepreneurs who are helping Virginia's energy transition, right? And make sure that we're implementing the new technologies that are going to make Virginia safe, reliable, cheap, clean power, right? That's what we want, right? So that's our role. And it overlaps with Dominion quite a bit there, but we're a separate nonprofit group. But if you have a question related to Dominion, we may or may not be able to answer.
Meeting with Dominion, Connecticut tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, the Millstone group is great. I will say the nuclear guys, we kind of leave alone from an innovation standpoint because you and I have had this conversation. Nuclear guys are different. Like they're just different. They get allowed to sort of like do their own thing because their thing is just sort of different from what everybody
I
else.
don't know what Adam's saying. I have no idea.
Like
You're on your own island.
okay. Like the distribution and transmission teams, we talk to a lot. Power gen, business development, we talk to a lot. Nuclear, they kind of do their own thing because the thing that they do is just sort of different from everybody else, right? It has its own
they have their own set of objectives that they've got to meet.
Exactly.
And they're almost like just funded separately. I can't say off the books, right? Because they're
Right, it's not all the books, but it's like,
but they have.
It's
a
like
whole-
every government organization, it's
yeah,
complex.
like their level of security that they have to think about and worry about, the stuff about like contamination, right, and radioactivity is just different from everybody else in the company. So they really sort of like exist in their own,
So I think you had mentioned, DEP.
the VEDP.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought DEP, like a Department of Environmental Protection, what's that called in Virginia, the equivalent?
DEQ.
Oh,
Virginia,
okay,
is environment. VEDP is Virginia Economic Development Partnership.
Partnership.
yeah, I mean, so, I'll email, Chris, and I'll get the answers, hopefully. I got a lot more, questions, but thank you. I don't want to hijack the presentation.
No worries, man. I mean, Chris would be the right place to start.
So Jerry, I have a question. So we are in the process of putting together a planning grant application. And my question is, we're still sort of working out some of the numbers on the finance side and, kind of working through some of that. How much can the budget that we put in the pre-application change from then until the full application?
Well, again, you're gonna put amount of what you're seeking. So if we have up to 50,000 that we'll look at as part of the planning grant. So if you don't know the exact number, go for the 50 and then it'll be refined during the application phase.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of where we are. We don't know what the individual buckets are. So is it
Well,
okay if
and
we
you
kind
know,
of do our
if you
best
consider
guess?
it in the application phase, and if we're to get approved by the commission, what's going to be part of that process is you've got to come up with a budget of how you reached your numbers, and that will dictate what comes out of that budget.
Okay, but we don't need to have super firm on that for the pre-application.
No, because I mean, some people that have submitted have indicated they got to go and get new updated bids for some of their budget items.
Okay.
Because things, as you know, during COVID, things changed completely in the supply chain arena. So, not knowing where you're at in that phase, we know that you're going to have to go get new numbers and resubmit them, and that's to be expected because that's going to be submitted. Once you pay that gets reimbursed, and there's a process for that that's laid out in the guidelines.
Right.
Yeah, and that might be something to talk about for the group, just how kind of the back end logistics of the grant work and the fact that it is a reimbursement grant. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Just the way the budget has been laid out is when we allocate it, and you specifically, for example, one of the grants, if it were for a piece of equipment, you'd have to show the receipts that you paid for the equipment, and then we would reimburse you once you submit it as part of that. That's how it's done. Only 25% of that grant can go towards administrative overhead costs.
Okay. So like, but for example, you get through January, this round is approved, and I say, oh, fantastic, Jerry, where's my check?
No, you're not going to get a check.
Yeah.
You're going to get the requirements laid out in an official letter that says, okay, here's what you need to do, and here's the process, and here's the requirements that are set forth in doing this, and then
Okay.
that'll be your guiding tenets.
And then we're submitting to you sort of as we go. All right, here's receipts for what got spent, and here's the cost share portion, and here's the grant portion, right? Then you guys are reviewing it.
Correct, and they validate it, and then they stamp it, and then check gets released. I mean, I've simplified it, but that's in general how it's done.
Do you have a timeline for how long these projects should take? Like, are people submitting projects that are going to take them 6 months to do, or 12 months to do, 24 months?
We have a 3-year period that it has to be done.
Okay.
So if the only concern that I have is that I may ask you in the application phase, if your project's not for 3 years, I'd rather get the money out the door of the people that have it in a sooner process.
Right.
Okay, I want to get the money on the streets. I'm not going to tie up funds for 3 years. So I will ask those type of questions. I'm going to say, when are you hoping to start your project planning?
Yeah.
And if you tell me 2 years down the way, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm going to decline it for now.
Yeah.
It's too far. You should be looking at stuff that you already either have on the books and thought through. It's ready to go. It's ready, and if you get approved, you're ready to move.
Right, you don't want people showing up saying, all right, well, first we have to get through the entitlement process on this land.
Yeah, I mean, because at that point, you're keeping those funds tied up if the commission was approved it.
Right.
And I don't want to see that happen for anybody. I want to get that money out working and for the communities out there and for the commissioners, that once they approve it, they know, hey, how fast can we get it out to our tobacco footprint, the areas they represent.
Right.
So, and then on that note, it's a good lead in for the third project because it talks a little bit about that grant.
Okay.
So on the third project, unless there's any questions on the battery storage, the other one that we did was a waste to energy side.
Yeah.
That's a demonstration project. And they're looking at 1 megawatt that they can do stackable, which means they can do 2 megawatts, 4 megawatts. But I got to tell you that has an agri component to it.
Okay.
Because it's not trash in the form of, you know, the trash that you empty.
Right.
This is agricultural manure, and I learned a lot between chickens and
There's different.
there's different nutrients.
Yeah.
Yes, I know your ag guys are out there
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
theirs, right? And so the reason I say that is because apparently cows have the best nutrients for generating the best emissions.
Yeah, you get the best methane.
And so what I learned on this is, so in doing so, I learned the average side on this whole process. But what's great about it is if and when all the offtake agreements take place, that was built into this agreement.
Okay.
So they have X amount of time based on what they provided me in their timetables that they've got to reach not only the agreements with the farmer, but their off-takers as well.
So it's an on-farm,
It's an on-farm
anaerobic biodigester.
It's a complete, in their mind, they're using some specialized equipment that they're going to be building on site. It's not a digester.
Oh, okay.
It's not a digester. So they've had their technology, it's all patented. And so the way it's been done is no money's to be released until they meet all these requirements that we've done. So again, in this particular case, what's important to recognize here is the letter itself becomes another financial instrument for them to also going out and get financing. Because we're an entity that says, okay, you do that, you make those requirements, you hit those milestones, yeah, we'll fund it. And it also gives them the opportunity to go out in the open market and say, hey, you know what, look, not only do we have financing here, but we have this entity that says, hey, we can do it here.
Yeah. Is milestone creation part of the process?
Not usually, but for this one it was because it's newer technology. Okay, so because it's newer technology, we made sure we had those built-in controls as part of that.
Yeah, which is a good, I guess the follow-up question to that is that generally how you've been doing it with new technologies, right? So like something like the best system in Danville is like Danville showing up saying, we want to do a second best project.
Right.
Like we've got it all planned. Here's what we need. You know, we know the lithium battery stack and the thing that we want to put together. You don't have to we don't have to think too much about that, right? Like there's a ton of stationary storage. You can basically go pull it off the shelf and
Exactly.
do it. Whereas if somebody's doing something that's like, this is the second one of these that's ever been built.
Right.
That's where you're doing more like, well, milestones.
It depends on the technology. I'll give you an example. One technology I saw about 3 years ago, it's probably been refined. It was for the military, by the way.
Okay.
What they used was they had wind at the corner of all the buildings, and they had what's called perimeter dogs. And I'm like,
Okay.
what the heck is perimeter dogs? Because if you recall, there was a substation shooting incident in California that knocked out the electricity.
Yeah.
So what they wanted to do was, instead of having to go through all this high security fencing, they used what was called perimeter dogs that used almost robotics that had all this infrared technology. And then as part of that wind, they put in solar and battery. So all of this was being done with renewable energy.
Okay.
And it was being done, so it was an invisible fence, but these robotic dogs patrolled their perimeter. And it became their alert system on what was on property. Now, something like that, you're getting very creative in the technology side, right?
Yeah.
And because of the clean energy component, and they're using wind, you know, on the corners of the building to capture. Now, you and I both know wind is so unpredictable.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't control the weather.
We're talking about like the little vertical.
Yeah, they had exactly.
Yeah.
But even that was newer technology of what they were
Yeah.
using, but then you have the solar and you have the battery. They were trying to use different sides of different component to capture different things to actually keep the battery at
Mhm.
different times. So, and that kept their perimeter, but all of that was off grid. It was not connected at all.
Right.
And that's how they did their perimeter. Again, that's thinking outside the box. That's an opportunity. I saw that technology firsthand and I said, but they actually made it clear, this was all built for the military.
Yeah.
Okay,
Do you have people showing up asking for things that require interconnection?
yes, I have had
And
that.
if they do, what do you tell them?
I'm actually working right now with the Air Force.
Okay.
And the Air Force is trying to figure out, how they can make their buildings more green. So you have conversions of military bases.
Yeah.
And I've actually worked with several conversions of military bases, even in California. What you've got to look at is, one, conversion of military bases that became private, they have their own challenges with their own infrastructure.
Mhm.
Because not all of them, I mean, you had whether it was the general on base that said, I just need electricity to a new building over there, get it over there.
Yeah.
They were not exactly built to code. Okay, you and I both know that.
Yeah.
Okay, we've experienced it. But then you have other military bases that said, okay, now how do we meet this green initiative? And how do we adopt it, but still keeping our security, cybersecurity, to be able to control the environment so we
Right.
can't have hacks,
Right.
data breaches,
Yeah.
right? So those are all challenges. And I've been working with them to make sure, okay, how do you have a backup system that still works with, the utility? In this case, they're in Dominion's territory. So there's a lot of conversations and we're still trying to figure that out. So there's, again, they're looking at geothermal. In that case, they're trying to look at geothermal as their fuel, one of their fuel sources.
We've got a geothermal company we've been working with.
So they are looking for geothermal because of their accessibility to that resource. So
I think geothermal.
So there's an opportunity
We've got an
there.
advanced geothermal company.
So to come back, those are examples, and waste to energy is an example. I mean,
Yeah.
you're looking at utilizing, they're looking at putting, in their case, they're looking at using 3 existing technologies, but utilizing their patented machine to create waste to energy in a different way. And actually they would have byproducts that they can actually sell as part of it, fertilizer and some other biochar that.
So if it's that technology company that's going on a farm, so then who's the nonprofit or government component of that?
In this case, who filed on their behalf? It was the agricultural, it was the ATIP. It was agricultural, what's ATIP stand for?
I don't know.
They were the nonprofit that are actually based out of here.
Good for you for even attempting to remember that acronym.
Oh, God, I got so many acronyms in my head. You gotta know, utility talk is all acronyms. It's all acronyms.
And government talk.
But we did well, TRRC. Yes, that was how we started. So, so that's kind of the last round of projects we looked at. In the end, there was one more round on a planning grant that we actually approved.
Okay.
ATIP was actually the winner of their own separate, for just looking at feedstock throughout the entire tobacco region.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, so
So
we
looking at what are the available feedstocks. for
exactly.
different,
So we told them to
I
partner.
like that.
We told them to partner with VCU because I had been on another committee with VCU. And I said, I don't want to recreate data that already exists.
Yeah.
You either got to make sure you utilize existing data and tap it on. But the one thing I did request, because I've done this in my previous life, is if I'm paying for some, I want to make sure it's my data at the end of the day. So because that's our grant, I also tell people it's our data too. We have
Right.
access to our data. So I make sure that you realize if you're going to request something and it gets funded by us, we're going to make sure we get our data. And I share that with the commission.
But then at the end of that study, then you have going forward this sort of map of what feedstocks are available in the.
Exactly. And my goal is to share it. My goal is to make sure other entities have access because I don't believe in recreating data
So
sources.
you can drive future projects.
Exactly. And because we're an agency of the all of the above, Montreal Energy, I want to make sure other sources are being utilized out there to tap in that resource.
Okay.
Okay. So I want to bring that up. And so in addition to that, the other planning grant that was actually awarded was they said, hey, Jerry, we want to look at all our facilities in our particular community and figure out what's the best use of renewable energy to feed all of those. So in essence, you're looking at a smart city kind of analysis. man, I funded that right away. That was the best use, whether they look at an energy management system,
Right.
whether they try to adopt, for those that may or may not know that are online, a virtual power plant.
Mhm.
You know, you're trying to manage when you need, when you need electricity
Yeah.
or generation, or juices, as we call it. You know, you're managing your own information, and
Right.
it's no different than your own household, right?
Yep.
You can manage your household and go, God, my kid left this on during the day, I get turned off from here. It's the same kind of process.
Yeah.
You know, so again, background wise, for those that don't know, I've been in this industry for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
You know, I left my last company, which was Southern California Edison, with 36 years of background in all in government affairs, regulatory affairs, and major projects and infrastructure. So I'm very familiar how the systems work. And, you know, again, I license not only, you know, gas pipelines for generating stations, but also all the major capital projects for substations and transmission lines. So again, I want to stress that because I want everybody to know that at least you know somebody that can actually guide you through this process.
So I said we were gonna mention this. We're talking about planning grants for this round. So like Kristen said, we've been working with her and the Virginia Gateway region on a planning application for you that involves taking a site and trying to sort of break down like how do you combine advanced energy technologies on this site to attract sort of like advanced manufacturing uses, things like that. And I think to our mind, there's been a lot of talk around if it's a data center, if it's a pharmaceutical company, if it's a manufacturer of any sort at this point, they've got some kind of request for clean energy.
Right.
Like, how do we take this giant site and sort of stack those technologies together to make it most attractive?
To me, that's an opportunity in trying to plan out not only the site variables, but
Yeah.
what you need,
Right.
right? Is it infrastructure ready?
Right. Is it infrastructure?
Okay, you've got to look at, and everybody just thinks always, oh, it's only electricity you got to be worried about. Yeah, some people can go completely off the grid if you
Well,
want.
right.
Right? I'm not looking at that, but it depends on who's coming into those sites, right? You got to look at electricity, but you also got to look at natural gas.
Yeah.
Okay, you also have to look at, hey, water. You need water, you need sewer. All that's infrastructure. So if that is deemed you got the resources or they're close by in proximity to deal with that, then the next level is, okay, what industries do you want to track?
Right.
That's part of the smart planning.
Yep.
Right? In my mind, okay, how much of those are going to be energy, you know, big energy users, or are they going to be natural gas users, or are they going to be heavy water, but their byproduct is energy of some
Yeah.
sort, right?
Yeah, and the questions that need to be answered are like, is it electricity use or we're talking steam? Are we talking industrial heat?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a biomedical. I mean, I had a biomedical company when they realized, and of course it happened because of an outage. I get the call one day and they go, hey, you got to go out to the site. And I went out to the site. The manufacturing facility was generating, you know, materials for the biomedical field.
Yeah.
But if the batch got disrupted in any form during that whole molding process, they lost 100,000. And that was back then. This was almost 15, 20 years ago. So because of the way the specs were drawn, that was
Yeah.
part of their compliance. So they realized how important it was to have a UPS system, an uninterrupted power source that had to make sure they had constant electricity for them.
Yeah.
Again, you may have another heavy user comes in and realize they gotta have a backup system, feed that backup in the event of an outage of some sort.
Right.
So again, it just depends. And again, knowledge of that background also plays an important role in how we deal with manufacturers and the different groups out there. And I would say that fits in right in line with what you're looking to do. It's collecting information, and great. The way I see it, I want to have access to the good data.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would add another one because I know Terry's online, and I know what they're proposing. They're looking at doing drones for utilities,
Oh, cool.
and they're looking at setting up a complete center on not only training, but as you know, drones are used for safety. But they're looking at not only the safety component, but they're also looking at the manufacturing of drones. And that falls in line with, again, drones are used for, you know, line, vegetation. They've been used for facility, reducing carbon
Yeah.
footprint. So they don't have to send a vehicle no longer to, it's the perimeter, as you know.
We've got the guys back there working on drones for power line maintenance.
So I know that particular application is forthcoming. If it hasn't already been submitted, I think it's been submitted. So that's another example of, yeah, I'll consider, why not? That's in the energy side, looking to expand. They're looking to come into the footprint. You know, and that's a planning grant for them. They want to look at available sites to do what they want to do, and they're looking to expand. And I don't know if Terry wants to say a few words on that because he's from Virginia. Terry, you want to add anything to it?
Yes, and thank you, Jerry. And can you all hear me all right?
Yeah, we can.
Excellent. Yeah, Jerry, and I think you'd be keen on the use of drones in the energy sector, seeing how you just came from Dominion. So you saw how they were used in that capacity. So the questions that I have, just give some background. I do serve as a technical advisor for the Unmanned Aircraft Systems Center at SBD. It's broken down. It's the UAS Center at San Bernardino International Airport, located in SoCal. I am, just like you said, Jerry, based in Virginia. We are interested to launch a new drone testing and training center in the Tobacco region of Virginia, which is modeled after our existing center in center of Southern California. The question I have is, what type of funding is available to support our program that is focused on the energy sector and workforce development? The plan, if we're in Virginia, we plan to increase the use of drones in the energy sector by introducing and demonstrating new drone technology. And that includes manufacturing. So sensor, the truck itself, the combination of both hardware and software. And we will also launch a drone-related workforce development program in the energy sector for people graduating from community colleges and universities, and give them the opportunity to earn their Part 107, which is an FAA ticket to fly and use drones commercially. And that's what we're doing already in Southern California, but I just want to throw that out there. And do you see a fit? We did submit the pre-application, by the way, Jerry. So going back to the question is, would this fall in line with the types of drones and what we plan on doing with manufacturing and integration? With all the tunes that come with it, as far as spectrum analysis, oil sample, vegetation sample. Over to you.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff you can stack up on that. So VIPC has a drone program. So the State Innovation Authority, their website is Virginia IPC. So they have a drone program already, and it's down there in like Christiansburg sort of area.
Okay. I can talk to Joe Benedito.
Well, Lynn McDaniel, who's on my board,
Okay.
Program manager for that.
Well, and the other thing I saw an opportunity, and I'm just going to answer his question just real quick.
Yeah,
before we
you can
expand.
answer his question.
No, just real quick. If it's a planning grant, because you want to look for sites, so that planning grant right now is capped at 50K.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 50K on that. But the minute you start looking at other components like manufacturing and bringing jobs, there's other pockets of money that could possibly be brought in from this, and that's not going to turn.
Well, there's VIPC is doing work in that space just as like a great partner. I'm just saying, like, right, like they would be excited. The other thing, and this is top of mind, Kristen, we've talked about this, but and it fits you better, is there's an American-made challenge program right now called, what's it called, Kristen? Good energy jobs or something like that. The workforce one. There's a workforce.
Yeah, it's
challenge.
workforce focused. Yep.
Yeah, it's workforce focused energy jobs one.
I'll see if I can find it. I'll drop it in the chat if I can.
Yes, if you can find it. It's the DOE challenge. So it's a prize. It's prize money, not even grant money. There's like, I don't know how this one's structured. These are prizes. It's run out of NREL. So it's prize money for people doing workforce programming. So Terry, like if you are applying for this grant to do, site work in Virginia, you should also be applying to this American Made Challenge workforce program so that you could, double or triple that. Good jobs and clean energy. You can double or triple that amount of money and apply it to workforce programming as you go.
Okay, and I do have the link. Kristen just posted it. Thank you.
Yeah. But anyway.
So Terry, you see, you got a ton of information, and what I'd like to do is that is unless you have anything more to add, I'd really like to open it up because we got like 15 minutes left.
Yes.
And I really want to answer as many questions about the energy fund as possible. But again, Terry, there are resources, and yes, that applies. Yes, there's funds available to answer your question.
Yeah.
And again, if you've got a manufacturing component to this, and that would be part of the site selection, you know, it sounds like you got a couple phases here. One, the site selection, identifying the site, you know, setting up the training center, and then moving on to the manufacturing component. Again, there's different funds available for that opportunity.
Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you.
Right. And then with that, I'd like to open it up to anybody else that has any questions, because I know we're limited. We're running out of time. This has been great. I gotta tell you, Adam's been great to work with. Staff's been great to work. Bobby keeps me in I need this by now. I need your. So I don't want to go beyond 11:30. We gotta, you know, make sure we get everybody's questions answered. So
Yeah.
anybody got any questions, just raise your hand. I'm happy to answer them.
Why is it called Tobacco Region?
That's how we know you're not from Virginia.
Yeah, you're definitely not from Virginia. It was part of a settlement agreement back in the day, about, I think it's 25 years ago now, or
Yeah.
something like that, pretty close. And it was part of the agreement was with the tobacco companies that they would set up a commission. And I know we're called the Tobacco Revitalization Region. We're really an economic engine for the tobacco farmers that got basically put out of work because of no longer, you know, farming tobacco.
So we're not the only state. All of the
North
states,
Carolina,
and theirs is called like the Golden Leaf Fund or something.
right? Exactly.
All of the states that are traditional tobacco country, when that big smoking settlement was made like 25 years ago, they each sort of got a bucket of money for revitalizing their tobacco region.
Basically an economic development engine. And so we're trying to do more of that and making sure that we're getting that money out to those regions.
Yeah.
I'd also like to add, we're in the process of setting up a nonprofit so we can go beyond the tobacco region footprint.
Cool.
So that's in the works. And it'll also allow us to go after grant funding that doesn't have to go, you know, exactly to the tobacco footprint, right? So it allows us to apply for those opportunities as well. So we are looking at all these various options on that, and we are considering. But again, for projects that are being considered in this round, I'm actually excited. Would love to see more hydrogen. Would love to see, you know, more waste energy. Would love to see if there's something in that small modular reactor side, outside of a site selection. I mean, that's going to be your most expensive, one of your most expensive components, because of just the licensing of that alone. But you got to start somewhere. You know, I can't keep it more positive than that. We got to start to say, this is it, let's make it happen and move forward. Any questions out there? I think.
Anything else? Alvaro, what's on your mind? Thanks, Peter.
Wow.
So what are you thinking, Alvaro?
Hi, Adam. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this wonderful time. I am here just for curiosity in this space, as you know, Adam. I am working in the venture capital space. We are a little bit far away from energy project, but I am definitely curious about energy, renewables, and was a great conversation.
All right. Well, we'll keep you informed as we go. But glad to see you drop in, man. What else? You know what I always say, Jerry? If you don't have a ton of questions, that means you did a really good job explaining.
You know, I'll go with that theory. But I'd also like to say, really, the website is really comprehensive.
Yes.
It's very thorough. I've tried to refine it as based on the feedback I get. The one thing we are doing that you can help me with, if you've got various distribution groups that you belong to, please get them over to Adam. Let's get you added to our distribution list. So you can actually help me in developing when the next round becomes available. That was probably one of the very first opportunities I found when I came to doing this project.
Yeah.
Was our stakeholder engagement list was limited, and Adam helped me expand that. I had others help me expand it, and I couldn't have done it without their help. You know, and this is all a partnership. It's all working with everybody and making sure that we have the relationships that we can, not only with them, but also with you, because you're our stakeholders. So we want to get as much information out there to all of you. and happy to help in any way, shape, or form. Questions on your end?
No, I think that sounds great. All right, did we cover the when and where? So people are gonna do the pre-application, it's gonna be due today. Then in a week or two, you're gonna be encouraging.
No, less than a week.
Less than a week, you're
I'll
gonna be
have my
encouraging the full application.
Tuesday, the latest, you'll have an email from me, those that moved ahead and those that were declined. I'm happy to do a debrief with you, why I declined.
Okay.
Which is unheard of for any particular agency, by the way, you know that. They don't give you why they decline you, okay? They just say you were not selected.
Yeah.
Right? And the reason I can do that, because I know the material.
Yes.
If I didn't know the material, then I couldn't have that conversation with you. I mean, I had one agency that applied for, believe it or not, it was electrification of train. And I had to tell them, you didn't meet the requirements on the RP. And I just, I highlighted the section and sent it to them. They go, oh, okay, you're right. We could have provided it. I'm like, yeah, could have, but you didn't. And that was the end of that conversation. That was it.
Like my first grader coming home from school. So, okay, and so then once you say you are now invited to do the full application, how long do you have to do the full application?
You will roughly have about a little over 4 weeks. I think December 4th is our
To get through
timeline
the holiday.
to get through everything.
after
And then,
Christmas.
our goal is to actually turn it around and, because we got to do internal memos
Mhm.
that we've got to prepare for the commissioners, which means, once you get in the application phase, you won't know till the commission meeting, which is January 7th or 8th.
Okay,
Okay. And
and then we should be prepared January 7th or 8th to show up in.
show up,
And-
it's gonna be here, actually.
It's gonna be
No,
here.
because January's always here in Richmond.
Okay.
So, because it's legislative.
Okay.
Month,
Right,
right?
they're all here anyway.
For 45, I don't know if it's long period or short. I was told there's a long period and a short period. 45 days is the short and 60.
Yeah.
I think we did 60 the last one, so this will be the 45-day legislative period. So when that happens, everybody's here from all over because the legislative period
Okay.
session. And then because of that, we'll let you know where we'll have our commission meeting. And I usually tell everybody, if you're one of the ones that is selected, I try to defend what I'm promoting, but I like to have you make the pitch. And then if I get asked by the commissioners why I did or did not do what I did, I'm happy to defend it. There are all the reasons why.
All right, so that's the nuts and bolts. That's everything anybody should need to know about applying, how the process will work, what it is they need to include, what it is you're looking for. So
Any questions, email me, happy to answer.
questions, email Jerry. And any questions about other stuff, energy related, you can always email us at Dominion Energy Innovation Center.
And this will be up on our YouTube channel with next week or so.
Okay, so in case you missed it, Bobby will have that up.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, and thank you, everybody. Hey, be safe out there. It is Halloween.
It is Halloween.
So for those that are trick or treating, good luck in terms of making sure that, keep the kids all happy.
Man, we're gonna try.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Terry.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks for joining us.
All right, take care.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Bye.
Have a good one.
All right.